Hey everybody, it's Angela Molson352, and today I am going to alter Saw's wood stage number 2, and this is a design team project that I'm doing, guest design team, and so I'm just kind of pre-assembling the stage to make sure I kind of know how it goes together and everything and see how it fits. And after that, I'm going to put some white acrylic paint because at this point I don't even know exactly what color I'm going to make this or what paper I'm going to use or anything. So I decided to just prime it all with white. And I'm careful here not to go over the little tabs because that'll make your tabs too tight to fit into the slots because it's a nice and snug fit already. And if you put too much stuff on the board, it just makes it harder. It's not, I mean, if you forget or whatever, you just have to kind of sand it off, but I just didn't want to have to sand later. So I went ahead and primed both sides of everything, and I'm not too worried. I'm going to go back and do touch-up painting. So, I just got the basic primer on there so that I could start gluing it up. And I'm just going to glue the bottom and sides on there. I'm not going to worry about the top because I'm going to kind of do that last so that my hands can fit in there to work on it. And so I decide to just glue the bottom and sides on right now. And so I'm just taking off excess glue, just using some Scotch quick dry wet glue because that lets me, have a little bit of move around time if I mess it up or put it in the wrong spot or whatever. It gives me a little bit of time to kind of move it around, and then I'm just kind of brushing off the excess glue, and I'm just going to continue assembling this, and it goes together pretty easily and pretty fast because they're laser cut. It all just fits. So I go ahead and put that side on there, except I forgot a space. That's where, like I said, it's nice to have wet glue because you can kind of pull it up and put it back down. It's a little more forgiving. So I do that, and then I think I put the front on there as well. And this stage is a really good size for what I want to do with it, which is to display some of my dollhouse miniatures and especially a wood cook stove, because I have a wood cook stove down at the farmhouse and that I cook on, and so I have kind of a small collection of different little wood cook stoves and stuff that I display. But you could use this for anything, and I set it up here also with an option that you can see it's set up for tea. So I get that all glued. And the other stage that she has, stage number 1, is a little bit narrower. It's taller and narrower. So I went with this one, which is a little bit wider. And as most of you know, I'll have a granddaughter here in about 2 weeks' time. And hopefully when she gets older, if she's, not a total tomboy, I'll be able to make stuff like this for her, because I think that a little girl would love this. And if she is a tomboy, I might be making this into, I don't know, a riding stable or, pet veterinary clinic or so. I don't know. You could do anything with this. So anyhow, I'm just going and touching up the outside and painting the edges of those little tabs. And it takes me a while to decide what paper I'm going to use, and that was probably the hardest part for me, was choosing the paper. So there we go. So I decided to go with this Maggie Holmes. It's an 8.5 by 11 stack of paper that I got really inexpensively at Michael's when it was on sale. It was one of those really cheap deals they had going on. And I just choose a wood grain for the floor. And I also use the same wood grain for the roof later. And it's just a good scale. Some of the other papers, wood grain papers I had, were a little bit too big of a scale, and I wanted you to be able to see the individual kind of planks on the floor. So this one worked really good, and I liked the kind of whitewashed effect it had to it because it worked with the white paint that I already had on there. And since the wood cook stove I'm putting on there is black, you know, I thought it would help brighten things up to have it a little bit lighter. So I just go ahead and cut that, and I'm going to put Mod Podge on everything later. So for right now, I'm just using my Pioneer glue stick, and I'm just going to tack it down because I have some other stuff I want to do first, and then I'll go back and Mod Podge it later. So I'm just going to adhere that. So I really like that, and then I have to decide what paper I'm going to use for the wall and for the outside. So I cut out the probably half an hour where I searched through papers. I looked at that one. I'm like, nope, I'm going to have to go search. And I go with this Garden Tea Party stack from DCWV. I like that it has the whites and the creams. It's a little bit distressed since this is a wood cook stove that I'm going to be putting on here. You know, it's a little more old-timey. And the scale on this is a small pattern, so it works pretty well. It's not too large of a print. So I'm just cutting that down. And I'm going to use that for the inside wall, and then just a kind of distressed paper for the outside with no particular pattern on it. Because I'm also going to set this display next to the little bakery display I did a video or so ago. So I don't want them to clash, although it doesn't really matter, but I'm going to set a couple of these up next to each other. So, and then I just use some more little pieces of that to put on the two little side walls. And again, I'm just going to tack them down with my glue stick, and I'm going to Mod Podge them later. You know, and I'm not being, as you can see, I've got a little crooked up there at the tippy top, but you know, there's going to be a roof over that, and I'm not too concerned with being perfect here because, you know, it's all about having fun too. So I go ahead and adhere those little side walls. And I just love how this thing turned out. I mean, just, it's pretty awesome. So there we go. I have the side walls. And then I decide to use this just kind of distressed paper for the outside, just something really simple. It's not going to be any kind of focal point or anything like that. There's going to be a lot of busy stuff going on, so I didn't want to get too many prints in the mix. So I just go ahead and cut these out, and I just cut them out and set them aside because I'll just Mod Podge those directly on there later. So I'm just getting my pieces ready. And I haven't got my design team box yet. I'll show you guys that when I get it in. And I have another cabinet, I think, in there that'll be like the third little display item I want to set up. So that will be fun. I guess I should have sped this up more. Otherwise, I'm going to have to like sing to you or something. Trust me, you don't want me to sing to you. Okay, so there's the other side. And I'm really liking how this is coming together. There's the little wood cook stove that I'm going to put on there. And I'm also going to use one of SaCrafters' little frames to hang on the wall behind it. But first it needs some brickwork to sit on. And so I have this stencil. It's one of Sa's 4x4 brick stencils, and it was the perfect scale for this. It was actually the perfect size width-wise too. So I go ahead and I get my mixed media paper because I'm going to spray this and use texture paste on it. And so I need a paper that's going to be a little sturdier. So I go ahead and get my modeling paste out, and it's kind of dry. So I go and add a little more water to it, and so it can be spread out. And then on this one, this particular piece, I leave 2 rows of bricks off because this is going to be the base that it's sitting on, and I don't need the whole amount. And then I'm going to do 2 right next to each other, and that'll be like the chimney breast type back panel behind the stove. So I do one, and then I do another one. And I really love these. I've used this stencil a lot, and I have one that's also one size bigger, just so that the bricks are a little bit different scale, but those bricks were a little bit too large. So I went with these, and now I'm just drying it out, kind of flipping it, drying it on both sides. You can see it starts curling, and then it'll relax and curl. And I was a little concerned it wasn't going to be able to be glued down, that it would pop up, that the Mod Podge wouldn't hold it. But you know, I went ahead and thought, you know what, I'm just going to try this, and if it doesn't work, then you guys will know what not to do and everything. But it actually works. So I go ahead, I get out a bunch of sprays. These are like Lindy Stamp Gang, Tattered Angels, and I think Heidi Swap is in there too. So yeah, so I've got a little bit of everything because I'm not exactly sure what's going to give me the color I want, which is more of the orange bricks with a little bit of black in them, you know, kind of an older style. And you can see that one kind of gives a halo when I spray it. So I just kind of, and it has some splatters, so I just kind of work those out a little bit with a brush. This is the Heidi Swap that gives it more of that orange color as a backer. And then, of course, the Lindy Stamp Gang, I always have such a hard time with their spray nozzles. So I just go ahead and get a paintbrush and paint it on, because I want it to have a mottled effect, because, you know, brickwork isn't all, you know, evenly colored. And so that it doesn't muddy, the inks don't start running together, I kind of dry it in between coats on some of these. Some of them I want it to run together, others I want to kind of dry what's there and then move on. So I need more of the orange color in there. So I get a Lindy Stamp Gang, just one of the flat peach color. And now I'm going for a Tattered Angels, something a little darker. And I'm starting to like that, but it's looking a little brown. It doesn't have the orange or red color that I'm wanting in there. So the one that finally does it for me is the Tattered Angels, one of the Plain Jane clay color, and that is like the perfect brick color. So you'll see when I finally stumble onto that color. Yep, I think that's it. Yep. And I like that. That gives me that red brick color that I'm looking for. So I go ahead and spray that in a few more places. And then I take a little bit of Heidi Swap Black and just put it in with some of my other wet paint there. And I'm just painting a few of the bricks with a little bit of black, because you'll notice when they fire the bricks and stuff, some of them get a little bit of that black tinge to them. So I want a little bit of that. So I'm just kind of painting until I'm happy with it. Drying it up here. And I put a little more of the red down there. That's going to be the piece that's on the floor. And I think that's about it. And I really love how they turned out. I mean, they look, once I get it cut out and everything and put on there, it looks pretty realistic. So now I'm just making sure to get it really dry. And the small piece I put on right away, and then the big piece I actually put under a book for a while just to make sure it stays nice and flat before I put it on there. So that's how it looks. And I go ahead and I trim out the base piece. And I don't want the white edges showing, so I go ahead and I get my Tim Holtz ink and I just ink the edges up so there's not a white line around the edge. And then I'm going to use the Mod Podge to adhere that to the floor. Here I am just trimming up the backing piece. And then in order for that to stay flat while I'm working on this other, I think I put it under a book or something, I don't know. And so I go and get my Mod Podge out. It's been a while since I've used it, so I had to get it stirred back up. And the only trouble I had with the Mod Podge was that it's so wet that when you put it on the bricks and stuff, if you drag your brush across the bricks and then onto the floor, it will pull some of the pigment or some of those sprays off. And so you have to be careful not to let that color run or get smeared off the bricks and onto your floor. So I put some bottles on there to help me hold it down, just because it wants to curl, it's so thick. And then I start putting the Mod Podge on here. And it's kind of milky here, but it will dry perfectly clear. So you can see there I got a little bit of the color went over onto the floor. So I think I take just like a little baby wipe and get that off of there. Yeah, there you can see I just kind of pick it up and then I just make sure not to drag my brush over the bricks and then onto the floor. So I was really happy that worked because I was totally not sure if that was going to do it or not. So now I am putting on a coat of Mod Podge on the wall, and I go ahead and I cut another strip out of that garden tea party stack just to make a border on the back wall. And then I let it continue along the side, and it was a little bit too long, it was hanging off the edge, so I just kind of trim that up. It just gives a little extra detail to that wall, gives your eye a place to stop. And then while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put the sides, the outsides on there. And then I'll go back and put the Mod Podge another coat and put the brickwork on the inside. So I just go ahead and give a good coat. I was a little afraid when I first did the back and stuff, because it's been so long since I've done decoupage. It kind of bubbled on me, and I was afraid that the bubbles weren't going to come out, but they did once it dried. You know, I kind of pressed them a little bit, but I didn't want to wrinkle it, but they did once it dried, the wrinkles came out. So I had a sigh of relief there. And I just go ahead, so you can see kind of there's that one wrinkle even almost starting right there, but it does go away at the end. And so there I put the other side on. And I like that it has, you know, a little bit of texture, but, you know, or pattern to it, but nothing really definite. So it's kind of casual and doesn't really draw your eye. So this is the little frame, SaCrafters frame that I want to use. And so I go ahead and I want it to blend in. And so I just get my spray again, that clay colored, and I go ahead and spray the frame and get that dried up. I think I have to put a couple coats on it just because it, soaked into the MDF a little bit. And I like that. It makes it easier than painting in all those little crevices. It's easier just to spray it. So I like that. And I have one more in the packet I can use later. And then I have this little thing of knives, forks, and spoons from SaCrafters. And these are just so cute. And it reminded me, the scale of them in this reminds me of like in the 70s when they used to hang a fork and spoon on the wall and everything as art, in the kitchen or dining room. And so it just reminded me of that. So I want to put those on one wall. And there I just took and fussy cut some stuff out of the same paper stack. And I'm just going to glue that up on the wall. And it just says, "You're my cup of tea." And that's going to go on that side. And it's just really cute. A nice little detail. It makes it seem, warm and homey. And then there, I just use the spoon and the fork. I don't wind up using the knife. And I just use a little bit of hot glue and glue those on. And like I said, it just reminds me of those old school wooden fork and spoon that people would hang in their houses. So now it's really starting to come together, and I did the same thing. I didn't show it, but I just Mod Podged exactly the same way the bricks onto the back wall. And then I also have this SaCrafters table. Now I don't have the chairs that go with it, but it fits perfect in there. A table and the chairs would fit perfect. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the table together and show an option, because if you don't have a wood cook stove, or don't want to put one in there, a table and chairs would be a perfect option. And I have some footage at the end of it all set up with tea, a tea service on there. So it's really cute. It fits on there just perfect. And so I thought, well, now is as good a time as any to assemble it and get it painted. Because you can always use a table somewhere in a dollhouse. So now I am I'm going to add a few little flower decorations kind of to that front right-hand corner. And it'll just pull some of those same flowers from the piece of artwork down to the corner and soften that edge up, give it a little more interest. So I just went and pulled out a bunch of flowers. Some of these are from Wild Orchid Crafts. That peach one there is one from SaCrafters. I don't believe Sa is actively selling flowers anymore, but I think she still does have some left in her inventory that she has for sale on her site. So check out her exhibit section on flowers. I think you might get some good deals there. And so I am just picking out some of these pinks and peaches and browns. I'm pulling out of the paper colors. And it really just brings that extra little detail. And then I go ahead and I wrap it kind of around the corner. So it just kind of encloses that whole corner in flowers. And that's about all I do with the actual body of the stage. And I'm really liking, how it's coming together. It's just really cute. So I'm just putting a few more peach and pink and brown flowers on there. and then it'll be time for me to work on finishing up that roof. And the roof did give me a little bit of trouble, and you'll see that I show in there how I deal with that. So there I am so far. And then I'm going to use this paper for my roof pieces, and I'm going to Mod Podge them on. And see that little crack there? I didn't really want the crack showing, so I just took another piece of that wood grain paper, and now I'm putting it in my scallop punch, and that I believe is like the EK Success dotted scallop. And the scallops aren't exactly the same as the ones on the bottom of the roof, but they're very similar. And so I go ahead and ink the edges because it's a cute little detail to add to the top of the house. And then I'm just going to Mod Podge that right on the top. And that takes care of, you know, being able to kind of see through that little crack. And I had a little crack, I think, that shows on the back a little bit, but not very much. And that one I just kind of filled with some paint and stuff like that. But like I said, I'm not worried too much about perfection. I'm just having fun, and the overall effect is really, really cute. So I go ahead and put that on, and I didn't go all the way down to the bottom of the scallops on the roof because I just didn't want to have to cut them out. So yeah, so I just left a white edge all the way around. So that is my house, and here I put some of my wood cook stove, and I've got some cookies on top. There's a turkey roasting in the oven. You can see the little sign, "You're my cup of tea," and there's the little spoon and fork over on the side. You can see the brickwork with the brick stencil, and I got a teapot on there, a muffin pan, a basket. You can see all the flowers. I got a little crate with some salt in there, and little butcher block, and there's the roof. So yeah, and then I set it up for tea, and I just thought this was so dang cute. And if I would have the 2 chairs, I'll have to order the 2 chairs to go with it and put those on there because that'd be so cute. And I thought, you know, if I had that Alice in Wonderland paper, I'd totally use that and set it up for the Mad Tea Party. That would be, I think that would look really cute. So I just wanted to give that as an option, you know, that you can get a table and chairs and they fit on that stage just perfectly. And then I'm going to show a few stills, and that is my project. So thank you so much for watching, and I will post a link to all of SaW's products that I used in here down below. And if you have any questions or anything, you know, please just leave me a comment. And I had so much fun making this. It's going to be around a long time, and I'm going to get in some good practice for when I want to make some for my granddaughter. And yeah, so there is my design team project. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.